is I started looking at like, what am I really, really, really buying? So like everybody goes to Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts or wherever the hell you go to get your coffee. And like, sure, is $4 or $5 or $6 too much money to spend on coffee? 1000%. Like it's ridiculous that you would even consider going to Starbucks and paying $5.59 for a coffee. Yeah. But before you beat yourself up too much about spending that much money on a cup of coffee, really think about what you're really buying. The way that I like to look at it is, okay, I get to, get in my car. I get to pull up to a building. I didn't have to buy that building. I'm not renting that building. I don't pay taxes on that property. I didn't have to build anything. I didn't have to put then inside the Starbucks all the furniture. I didn't have to buy the $12,000 espresso machine and stock, the milk and all the food and all the coffee. And I didn't have to hire any employees. I didn't have to pay any payroll taxes. I didn't have to learn how to make the coffee and, blah, blah, blah. And, all I have to do is literally just pull up to a window, say, hey, I want a grande Americano with almond milk. And 4 seconds later, I get one. And it's like $5. Like, shut your damn mouth, take my money and give me my coffee. That's a deal.
The Move Entrepreneur Evolved Podcast. Get on it.
And we're back with another episode of the Move Entrepreneur Evolved Podcast. And I've got Jordan Stupar. What's up, dude?
Dude, everything's going on over here, man. I'm excited to do this with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you back, man. We got one going and we ran into some issues, but I got a little bit of content we could play, but I'm excited to kind of just crack this as real. So I'm going to start it off, right? Because you got to crack this thing. So in Jordan's life right now, if you looked at your life like a book, what is your chapter's name?
I would call it spring, because there's seasons to life, right?
Good call.
There's seasons to life, and I just went through a real long, nasty, cold, dirty, dark, humiliating, embarrassing winter. And I wouldn't say I'm all the way out, and I wouldn't call it summer quite yet. I've got plenty of work to do, but trust me, man, things are blooming. So I'd call it spring.
Okay. So when you go through like that cold winter, I'm not out in that area, and I've experienced some cold living out here and being thin. It doesn't take very much, but at that place, when you have that cold, does it take time for you to kind of like as a human unthaw from that crazy season?
I would say yes, both literally and theoretically.
Yeah. Dude, that's
100%.
I've never lived in the cold. I know you have a Porsche, so is it 4-wheel drive?
It is. Thank God. That when I came here,
or is it all-wheel drive?
Yeah, all-wheel drive. When I came here from Miami, I had my 911 that was rear-wheel drive, and I learned very quickly that it's a whole lot of fun in the snow and in the rain with rear-wheel drive, the light little sports car. But as far as real safety concerns, like it's probably not the best vehicle to have here during the winter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I definitely went and got a Cayenne with all-wheel drive. And I mean, you literally, you can hardly go sideways unless you take off the traction control.
Got it.
Which I do frequently.
Kind of turning that, quality has always kind of been, anybody follows you, Jordan, you like to have style and quality and all those things. And was it always like that for you? Were you younger? Were you the guy that geared up in high school? What was that, or when did that turn for you?
No, I haven't always been that guy. I've always wanted to be that guy. I've always wanted to have, some nice things. But I think it wasn't really until I started really kind of making some money that I was able to acquire some of the things I've always kind of wanted to have. I've never really been, I've always dressed well, whether it was street style or, dressing well. I've always dressed well. I've never had a problem with that.
Your shoes were always clean.
My shoes were always clean. I always had, it went from like a fresh pair of Nikes to some like Magnani dress up shoes to like, all that nice stuff. And I like quality really more than I like, the big names and such. I just like quality stuff.
I think that obviously travels into business, but when you look at quality stuff, do you tend to kind of bite off the price, or do you kind of try to find like an angle of something that you like? How do you look at quality? Do you find it like, obviously, you choose Porsche, you're an enthusiast, as we've talked before. But what are your thoughts on that?
So I lived most of my life complaining about price and being a price shopper. One, because I didn't really have the money to buy and purchase quality without really thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously there's that. I mean, you can like quality all you like, but if you can't afford a Louis Vuitton bag, you're probably not going to buy one. So,
yeah.
I did that, and then I started making some money, and I still found myself kind of like price shopping and withholding my ability to have some of the quality things that I wanted. And I realized that oftentimes, because I'm in sales and I do sales stuff I've been doing sales for 20 years. I realized that I was struggling a lot of the times with price shoppers or people that had payment problems or, price issues or objections in that area. And I realized that one of the main reasons I was struggling to overcome those objections or relate to those people or do well is because I was justifying those same objections in my own life, where it's like, oh, dude, I don't know, man, a Porsche, 140 grand for a car, that's insane. But then I was like, wait a second. And this is a little gem for the audience. Here's how you can flip your perspective, I think, is I started looking at like, what am I really, really, really buying? So like everybody goes to Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts or wherever the hell you go to get your coffee. And like, sure, is $4 or $5 or $6 too much money to spend on coffee? 1000%. Like, it's ridiculous that you would even consider going to Starbucks and paying $5.59 for a coffee. Yeah. But before you beat yourself up too much about spending that much money on a cup of coffee, really think about what you're really buying. The way that I like to look at it is, okay, I get to, get in my car. I get to pull up to a building. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to buy that building. I'm not renting that building. I don't pay taxes on that property. I didn't have to build anything. I didn't have to put then inside the Starbucks all the furniture. I didn't have to buy the $12,000 espresso machine and stock, the milk and all the food and all the coffee. And I didn't have to hire any employees. I didn't have to pay any payroll taxes. I didn't have to learn how to make the coffee and, blah, blah, blah. And, all I have to do is literally just pull up to a window, say, hey, I want a grande Americano with almond milk. And 4 seconds later, I get one. And it's like $5. Like, shut your damn mouth, take my money and give me my coffee. That's a deal. And that's the same with and that's the same with everything. It's like with a Porsche, for instance. Now you're going from $5 to 150 grand. It's like, you're telling me all I got to do is write you a check, and you're going to give me a vehicle that's been evolving for the last 70 years by the greatest, sports car engineers in Germany. They've sourced the leather for the seats. They figured out how to put the engine in the back. They put the rubber on the car. They built this race car from the greatest, racing company of all time. They've had the most wins. And I get all of that for 150 grand. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a deal. Shut up and take my money. Yeah. And so I don't do any of that. When I go to the bar, I'm just like, $18 for an old fashioned. That's way too much money to spend on alcohol. But I like it because that means that's going to be a good old fashioned. It's quality. And you mean to tell me, right, that I didn't have to pick the bourbon. I didn't have to learn how to make alcohol. I didn't have to stock the bar.
That's a good way to look at it.
You know what I'm saying? So I look at
well,
everything.
I think you
like
also value your time. And I think that your presence is what you're valuing as well. And I think that when you start to kind of, want to have those things, there's other reactions that come with them. And I think that there's a conversation here that also is, even with business owners and everything, like, especially like salespeople, it's like, do you just go spend all your money like that? Or how do you got to figure out how to kind of manage it correctly? But I think what happens is, depending on what you're purchasing, there's also the networking aspect of it. And it's actually Grant Cardone was on. He's like, why'd you buy the jet? And he says, that jet makes me more money than anything. And they're like, what do you mean?
Sure.
And he said, because I can travel with that thing. But the other thing too is, like, I had these in my life a few times, but Harley Davidson's did it for me. I was young. I was 21 years old. I have a Softail with 8 hangers on it. and I'm running around like a maniac. And you pull up to a bar and you get people of all ages that just are astonished in what you're doing. And they're just, who are you? What are you about? And I think that on a side, and especially because like we're going to continue talking about sales, there's a little bit of like, I would say it's like arrogance in a way of a sale, not arrogance, but like, fuck yeah, I did it. I closed that son of a bitch, you know? So there's that confidence that comes with that. And I think that sometimes the things that we purchase, because I was heavily into sales at the time, and it was like, yeah, I earned this, right? Like I earned this thing. Now, and I think you said it in the very beginning, if you can't afford it, then that doesn't make sense. But if you are having some income coming in, there's also value in adding quality to your life, because I think that attracts, you know, people that are like-minded like you.
100%. Like your Harley Davidson, sure, you got to enjoy, you know, the open road and the wind in your face and all the experiences that come along with right. But even on top of all of those other things, you're purchasing access to a lifestyle that you can't have unless you drive or ride a Harley Davidson.
Yeah.
You know, like, dude, I pull up in my Porsche to a biker group of Harley people. They're going to be like, yo, beat this motherfucker up, you know, but if I show up on a Harley, it's like immediate, you know, like, oh, sweet dude, he's one of us. So absolutely. I think, you know, quality things too. I mean, why do women want Louis Vuitton bags? It's so that they can compete with each other on the social stratosphere of being female. It's like, oh, you got
But Coach. I'll also tell you, because my girl has one, she has a couple of bags, and I'll tell you, they last forever.
I only buy Louis Vuitton leather goods now. Like I will pay the price because I mean, my Louis Vuitton wallet, like as a dude, I'm sitting on it. It's everywhere. It's brand new. It still looks brand new. And you know, my wife's had Louis bags now for years. And like, there's not even a single sign of wear or tear on it. It's quality. And that's what you're paying for.
So you're going to like this twist here. The reason I brought all that up is because Mr. Jordan Stupar, his Stupar Enterprises, is about training salespeople, and there's quality that comes with that as well. So I wanted to set that up on purpose.
Well done.
I think you've done an amazing job on creating a quality product, also a quality, when you go into social media, you've done a very good job. So what I would like to ask, diving right into sales and what your profession is, when was the shift? Because you've been in sales for a while. I've done sales basically my entire life. Where do you think the shift in sales style changed? When do you think that shift was?
If I am hearing your question in the correct context, I think that sales had its biggest kind of overall shift. Well, I think with the initial invention of the internet, however, not so much. Obviously, the internet was super young and people weren't used to it. But like, I would say probably like when social media became mass adopt, when you know, Facebook had its first 100 million users, and it wasn't just, you know, kids in college doing, you know, we can outdrink you, you know, here's a photo of us drinking, you know. I think when Facebook kind of opened up to everybody and it was mass adopt by 20, 30, 40, 50 year olds, and Instagram was acquired, whatever that was, probably 2012, 2013, I think is when things kind of really started popping off with those platforms. That's where I think sales had its most significant evolution.
Yeah. And what do you think? I might have a couple ideas because I think it would be interesting to spit this off, but what do you think it was? Do you think it was do you think it was the sales people that were transitioning in the way that they were as humans? Like the way that, like, if you're making sales in different ways through Zoom and all those things, is it a different transaction than when somebody would actually come into your lot, or someone would come in and you'd sit there and nurture the relationship, right? Because that was always be closing. It really started with break the ice, create some relationship so that someone can trust giving the money to you.
Yep.
But do you think it was the consumer, or do you think it was kind of like the technology that changed the way that we approach people differently?
I think it was the consumer's ability to access information that changed the way that salespeople have to interact with those individuals. You know, I talk to my dad about this all the time. He's in his 70s, and he's been in sales my whole life. And he was selling telecommunication systems to large public schools, large companies, Fortune 500. And literally, like, imagine this, there's literally no Google, there's no internet. And like my dad, he started making buco bucks, and he would call, the Milwaukee public school systems or American Family Insurance. And this was his cold call. Hey, my name is Jeff with Mitel. How would you like to be able to see who's calling you before you pick up the phone? And it's like, dude, what? Caller ID, baby. And he would set that meeting. He would grab his phone, he would call himself, whatever, from that. And it's like, Jeff Stupar pops up on the phone or whatever. And then, imagine this. You're the buyer and you're looking at a $1.6 million complete redo of your entire phone system, which, by the way, you didn't have Slack or any other way. Like, the only way to communicate around the office was either to walk your ass all the way over to the other side of the building, fax something or snail mail something, or call them on a direct line or whatever. And so how are you going to find my dad's competitor? How are you going to find a lower price? How are you going to know that? How are you going to know that, and so that's why I think we've made this transition. And this is a big point of mine, at least as a sales trainer, coach, whatever, is you had ABC back in the day. Cause it's like, my dad is in that building. This is 1.6. Where else are you going to go get the information? Sign right here. Let's get this thing done. And okay, there's no extra research, or like you don't even know who else exists. So you just end up buying. And I think that you got to have a little bit of pressure there to get that person to just commit in that moment and say yes. These days, I say, instead of ABC, always be closing, I say ABV, always bring value, because people have
always bring value. Okay.
Always bring value, because there's no shortage of places to go to find more value or a lower price or a different feature or whatever. There's so much stuff out there, and it's so instantly accessible. And these days you can buy 3/4 of it on Amazon with a one-click buy button. So like, you got to nurture those relationships and bring value to people to establish those relationships, or you're not going to succeed very much as a salesperson these days.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I think that the transitions of the way that we do that also has to do with the way that we're communicating, and we do want a little bit more information. We're always emotional buyers. I mean, if you don't believe in emotion, you probably aren't going to sell very much at all.
That's facts.
How important do you think somebody that's actually selling has that emotional ability? Most people, emotional intelligence, I guess you would say. How important do you think emotional intelligence is to people that are selling products and goods?
I think it's really important, but I also think that it can be manipulated a bit. For instance, I work with any industry, any salesperson, any profession, any income bracket, whatever. And I work with people with high EQ, low EQ. And at the end of the day, I think that you can manipulate the salesperson's ability to bring about an emotional response with that customer. Because, the things that I train on, there's pretty much 6 emotions that people experience that cause purchasing behavior. And, just take one of them, relief, for example. You can, if I'm selling you a Harley Davidson, right, and I'm talking with you about the Harley, obviously I want you to ride it. I want you to hear it and get emotional about it. But at the same time, that might not be the real reason why you end up purchasing. Maybe what you're really looking for is you're tired of going to the bar. Maybe it's a biker's bar, or there's just frequented by a lot of Harley people, and you see them in their tight little knit group circle, and you're just out there by yourself having your cocktails, and nobody really befriends you. And maybe you are kind of friends with them, but you want to be really in with those guys. I'm going to get you to purchase the Harley Davidson, not so much on the emotional experience of hearing the room and all that. I'm going to get you to purchase that bike because I want you to feel the relief of understanding that when you park your speedster at the bar, you no longer are going to be an outcast. And so if you understand that process and you understand those emotions, I think that you could do a good job of eliciting those emotional responses in buyers these days.
And it's interesting that you kind of bring that up, because when I sold Harleys at the time, obviously I was young and I wasn't a motorhead or anything like that. And so I really never cared. They'd all laugh at me in the back. I was always top salesperson. And they always be like, you don't even know where the piston is. And I was like, no, but
You don't need to.
No, but I know where that the guy wants to have a girl on the back, and we got to make sure there's some chrome on it, because that's how he feels when he picks her up. And when he gets this on Sunday, when he goes with his friends, he's going to think he can fight, but he probably can't. But we're going to make sure he can be put into this thing. And the way that I would always sell is that's the story you tell. Yep. Oh, hey, by the way, did you have a grandfather that had a Harley Davidson?
Maybe,
yeah,
maybe
actually,
not.
My grandfather had one. And the reason I'm getting one was because he was in the war. And it reminds me of him. And I want to play on that legacy. And kind of talking about what you're saying, that's exactly what it is. I think that's in people in sales, I think that they miss that a lot. They miss the second stage of the relief. I like that.
They really do. There's a trillion examples we could go back and forth on. And I think, if there's salespeople out there listening to this or watching it or whatever, I think they can really take home that you don't really need to know all that much about your product. I could go to the Harley store right now and probably do a pretty damn good job of selling Harleys based exactly on what you just said. It's the emotional experience of what it is when I have the bike. How do I feel when I'm gripping the steering wheel of my Porsche? Well, I know that there's faster cars. I know that there's more expensive cars. I know it. I feel like a winner in motorsport behind my vehicle because Porsche is the most winningest manufacturer when it comes to racing. So that's how I feel. And I bring home some of that confidence with me when I'm gripping that wheel. So that's what I'm buying.
So with that flip, we can jump into like Stupar Enterprises. And one of the things I thought would be interesting to talk about is that you have a content process. You put a lot of it out. Who inspires you, or how do you find ways to create new content and maybe pitch things a different way? What is your creative process in that? So
I use what I call, and I kind of coined this out of having to answer questions like these before. I use kind of this push and pull method is what I call it for social media. I post a lot for several reasons. One is I want to stay relevant with my audience. Two, I want to capture new people into that audience. Three, I want to continue just dripping on my viewers or the people that are usually watching my content, just to let them know, hey, when you're ready to do some sales training or make more money or whatever, like I'm over here. Yeah. But also, I think, and this is a golden nugget for any salespeople out there, is I publish all that content, and it helps me pull in more opportunities. I get people that are like, hey man, what was that one program you were talking about? Or where can I learn more about that or whatever? So I'm pulling in opportunities, but what I can also do is take some of individual pieces of content and I can push them out either, directly to a prospect. If I'm cold calling on you and, I do a good job and I realize that you have attention on handling objections, and I just posted or somewhere on my Instagram account or whatever, have a video of me talking about objections. If I don't close the deal with you, or I'm making sure that you show up to that appointment, or I'm just nurturing you or ABV, always bringing you value, I can take the little URL link to that one post and I can email it to you, or I can send it to you via DM or whatever. And again, maybe you love it. Maybe you don't even watch it or whatever. But now I've got something that, again, you kind of have identified to me that you have your attention on. So I'm using content that I've already used, but I'm repurposing it for individual follow-up efforts to make sure that I stay relevant with you specifically and serve up content that you find most interesting.
I'm going to grab a charger here real quick. But one of the questions I wanted to ask is who's inspired you? Because I know there's so many different sales people through the generations that have been different. Who are some of those people that inspire you? I'm just going to grab this charger real quick.
Sure. I think the person that's probably inspired me the most in sales and to be in sales and just do sales in general, I think is going to be my dad. And I'm sorry if that lets anybody down. I don't have any real.
I was literally, if I could have written that down, I just had an instinct.
You already knew.
I knew it. That's exciting. That's exciting.
Yeah. My dad, I told him when I was much, much, much younger, like 20 years plus ago, I'm never going to be like you. I'm never going to wear a suit. I'm never going to be on calls. I'm not going to be a salesperson because I wanted to be a rock star. I wanted to be a musician, and that I was going through that phase. And ultimately, dude, my dad created a really good lifestyle for his family selling stuff. And when I got fired from Chili's, I was like, dude, you know what?
Is that very difficult?
Huh?
Is that very difficult?
Doing what?
Getting fired from Chili's?
It wasn't really. I could care less about the job. I almost intentionally got fired from Chili's. Like I didn't show up to work for 3 days in a row. So like I knew I had it coming. I'm just not a good quitter. So I wanted to get fired instead.
Well, that's hilarious.
But yeah, I didn't want to go back to college. I didn't want to necessarily take any other professional path or anything. So, I just started going door to door in sales, and I just fell in love with the idea of the fact that I can get paid pretty much whatever I want based on work ethic. And that there is obviously a skill set to be developed. And if you can, you'll make more sales and you'll make more money. And then, it's kind of addicting in a way.
Was your father, I really got into sales a lot, was my uncle, but it was also my dad. And did he do anything with you to practice when he was younger? Did he ever like try to teach you the tactic? And like, because most people that I know that have been in sales, you kind of want to regurgitate what you've done. You always want to tell the story of the sale. I don't know if you were always about that, but salespeople love to tell the story from start to finish
for sure.
Of the sale. It's almost like a fight. They came in and I threw my jab, I threw a cross, and I threw a hook. I knocked him out. Yeah.
Yep.
What was your gross? What was the gross? What was it? There's that. So what do you think?
My dad didn't share too many war stories, of all that. Come to think about it, my dad shares pretty much none of those quintessential, sales values of, he won the President's Club for his company and was the number one salesperson globally for 26 years in a row, and never ever once went on like the Maui trip or the Cabo trip and there's always the one thing he always usually does share is that, there was an event, at the end of his tenure there at that company where, there were again, like salesperson of the year, Jeff Stupar. And, somebody had been, talking to somebody else and bumped the guy and was like, dude, I bet this guy isn't even real. I bet the company just puts this guy up here so that we always have to just push more to beat somebody.
Fight to beat that guy.
And so he has shared stuff like that with me. But he hasn't, maybe once or twice he told me a little bit about an interaction or whatever, but he's never been that kind of quintessential, like coming home and been like, yeah, bro, like here's a beer. I got a story for you, dude.
He probably did that with his. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe that's just because you were the son and it was part of providing for his family. But, I remember growing up and I think that my dad would go down and he would be like, how much for that car or something like that. And I'd say this much, say, oh, I'll give you this much. And he would like negotiate with me at a very young age. And I don't think that did as well for him as I got a little bit older, because I would always be like, 2 spankings and 1 hour in my room. And he'd be like, no, Jason, we're going to swat you 3 times. And there is no time in your room. Okay. How about, and I would do this over as a kid. I would try to negotiate my way out of getting my ass whipped by my parents.
Yeah.
And I had good parents, but everybody gets spanking by the spoon, by the way.
Hey, I got spanked.
Dude, I used to get the wooden spoon, man. And my mother used to always say, hey, go get the wooden spoon. I'm like, who goes and gets their own gun?
Same here, man. My mom broke a spoon over my ass once, and I was like,
I did too.
I'm pretty sure that was my last spanking, because she was like, okay, he's too grown. That's a solid ass right there.
I'm hitting some muscle here.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, that's so good. So another thing that I always think about, and I think about the deep side of sales as well, is what would, when it comes to, because there's a difference between marketing and sales. And if you have a salesperson that has an incredible marketing backing, then he becomes kind of an order taker. What would you say some of the things would be valuable on the marketing side that would, as far as salespeople, that they would want loaded before they got there. Does that make sense? Maybe butchering the question, but what I'm trying to get at, see if I get it again. By the time it gets to the salesperson, for the salespeople to have a smooth conversation in the actual closing process, what are some things in marketing that should be loaded up so that you have a positive experience? So it's not like a used car experience.
I think one of the things that you should do, if possible, I understand that there's several products and services out there that can't provide any pricing details unless you actually get some, firm, details to provide an estimate. But I think one thing that people make a mistake on is not discussing price quickly with people. I think that price should be easily accessible if somebody is looking for something. If not, then you end up getting the price, and then people use that as the reason to say yes or no, rather than saying yes or no to the value proposition of the product.
Wow,
or service.
Okay. I'm going to dissect that for a second. So you have a feeling that it'd be nice on the marketing side if the price was already there?
Up 1,000%. For instance, I have a higher level sales coaching program where I work with people every single day for 8 weeks in a row. It's extremely time intensive. It comes with a 100% money back guarantee. And I run Facebook ads for it. And in the Facebook ad, and again on the landing page, and again, the very, very first thing on the sales call with my team is, by the way, this is 10 grand. Because a couple things I want to accomplish. One, I want you to get your broke ass out of my ad funnel or off my sales team's time if you can't afford my product. That's number one.
That was great. That is so good. Yeah.
That's number one. I want to get the
great.
jokers out of the deck, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to waste my time with people that can't afford my product because, dude, there is nothing more valuable than time. I'd rather have one good sales call from somebody that's qualified than 12 all day and then have one, So that's number one that marketing needs to do. Like, for instance, car dealerships, some of them have, their price on the website. A lot of dealerships don't. Call for price. Why do they want that? So that they can get your information and then give you the price anyway that you're just going to say no to because your price is higher than, whatever store down the street. It's extremely annoying, and it makes those salespeople struggle way more because those people get combative on the phone. Like, I'm just calling about the price on this one. And it's like, shit, dude, like everybody that I talk to is broke when nothing could be further from the truth. Yeah. So that's bullet point number one. Marketing needs to be as upfront about price as possible, or at least give some type of ballpark or range or something. And I think also the other thing that needs to be discussed is the intent to purchase. Like, where exactly are you? Are you pretty educated? Have you been shopping around for a minute, or was this that shiny new object that you're like, dude, I want to learn more about it and book a call?
Where are you at in the mental process of purchasing this product?
Exactly.
Like your Porsche, you were 5 months out. I mean, you're just like, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to get. You were already there.
I was years into the process. In fact, I only bought the Porsche because it cost me more money not to have it. I had spent so much time shopping, watching YouTube, building it online. And I was like, dude, just buy the damn thing and then get back to work instead of wasting your time thinking about getting one.
That's a good point. Yeah. I think that it's an interesting thing because when it comes to sales, there's the time for maybe the pitch. And in the marketing, there's what's the price. So you're saying that you think that if it's good marketing, if the marketing's there, if you show the price, when people actually come through your process, right when they land, you're building the value of the price instead of building the relationship to drop the price on them.
Right. Like, dude, everybody knows that a Bugatti is $1 million car. That's exactly why everybody wants one, including the people that can afford them. It's high priced because all that a price really is a reflection of what the company or the production or the manufacturer or the creator or whatever perceives the value to be for the end user. Mm-hmm. And obviously some things like a car, obviously if it's a Bugatti, I'm sure that there's plenty of hard and high significant cost involved. But, for what I do, I sell information. Like, there's not really a whole lot of actual hard cost that goes into me jumping on a Zoom call with you and providing you with information. However, if I price that information, say at $100,000, are you attracted to that?
I would have to build the value to find the 100 grand.
Of course. But if you saw somebody out there that was like, hey man, in 1 hour with me is $100,000. Mm-hmm. You might be like, holy shit, like I'm not going to afford that, or maybe I can, or whatever. Either way, it's probably going to be a little bit exciting for you to be like, what is this person able to accomplish with me in 1 hour? Like, why
for
does
$100 grand?
For $100 grand, like what would I actually get? And assuming that you're reasonably qualified, you might book that call. And then my job is to say, look, man, I'm going to sell you an hour of my time. I'm not saying that you should buy this right now. I'll do a little backdoor, a little bit of a takeaway, take off some pressure. Theoretically, if you were going to pay me $100,000 for an hour of my time, what would be the 1, 2, maybe 3 things you would absolutely have to know that we would accomplish on that 60-minute call in order for you to feel comfortable moving forward right now? So here's my high price. You tell me what you would need to see, to make sense out of that $100 grand. And if I can do
that's a great
job,
way to build your product as well. I mean, that's a great mental of creating
all
your
day
offer.
long.
Yeah.
All day long, and price is a silly thing. I sell that sales acceleration 8-week program. I've sold it for $3 grand. I increased prices to 5,500, never lost any customers. I'm increasing it to 10,000 and to 25,000. And look, one of the main reasons I'm moving it to $25,000 instead of 5,500 is because, well, I already know that I'm missing out on hundreds of opportunities, because there's going to be people out there that make 75 grand a year and they're like, all right, fine, I'll do it, man. Here's 5,500. Like, I can barely afford it. Take me to the next level. And then there's going to be a person out there making 750 grand that's like, dude, really? I get to work with this person every single day for 8 weeks in a row and it's $5,500. Pass.
Oh, yeah.
Because their perceived value of that, what they're getting for that dollar
and
amount,
who they are in a sense
right.
of like, yeah, and standards. So you're assuming that the price needs to match your standards because the value that you need out of that price needs to match the standard that you've built for yourself.
Right. And, every time that I raise prices, I get the same amount of customers or more, and I make more money. And also I deal with customers that actually appreciate what it is that they buy. You don't see a whole lot of, on Instagram, you don't see a whole lot of those cool car washing videos and everything with, a beat up Honda.
No.
But you'll see a lot of them with Ferraris, Lambos, Porsches, whatever, because they're nice cars. People want to take care of their shit, and because they appreciate what they worked so hard for and what they spent so much money on. And so, I mean, I love working with people that are the highest priced. I work with a guy right now inside of Sales Acceleration with a $60,000 offer. And it's like, that's the price. And it's like, he crushes it because it attracts people that have the money and are looking for something that's that valuable. So price is always a hilarious conversation. Everybody wants to lower price and be competitive on price. Well, dude, be competitive in value and blow people's minds with the price and the value and over deliver,
I think that's, because obviously as business owners, entrepreneurs, stuff, it really does come down to the offer for you as a salesperson as well, because it's like, if I don't have a good product, it's going to be a lot about trying to figure out what is this thing and why you're going to buy it, or did you hear anything or anything like that. So one of the things I know that you'd created Stupar Enterprises, and you started it all by yourself, right? You have a story of just starting it all alone and
all by myself,
all by yourself. And then when was the pinnacle time that you decided to add staff and have salespeople? So anybody that's ever followed you, you're a fun follower. You've done a really good job on creating this belt. And, I was all stoked about it because I'm a big fight fan. So I was like, that's a great idea. That's really cool. So I thought it was really cool. I'll kind of explain it. You give them kind of a belt for winning.
The title belt.
A title belt. What was the moment that you went, you know what, I need to add people, and then I'm going to have to train them, and now they're going to have to be the machine that you have?
Yeah. So the moment that I realized it for me was I was launching my cash cards product, and honestly, like, dude, I was making money hand over fist and generating leads that, one, I couldn't follow up with because I was spending 6 to 8 hours a day sitting there by myself, just fulfilling orders, going to the post office, coming back, fulfilling order. So I couldn't actually even follow up with these people. So at that time I was like, I need to delegate this. It needs to be done. I can't grow my company and revenue if I'm doing this. So it was a very easy decision for me at that point to be like, hey, I'm going to bring somebody in. Your job is now to do all this. My job is to make calls and follow up with all these customers. Hey, how's it going? Do you have any feedback? By the way, I've got this upsell opportunity, yada, yada, yada. And then I also realized at the same time, I still couldn't keep up with all those calls. And so I just started scaling the sales staff. Then I had a retention problem. And people are like, hey, man, didn't get my package. Or, hey, man, I got a question about this thing inside Stupar Sales Academy or whatever. And I was like, oh, I need to get a CSM, a client success manager, to help manage retention and customer service and yada, yada, yada. And so, I think delegation is probably one of the things that's just come easiest to me. It's what do I suck at and what do I don't have time for? And what's the one thing that I need to be spending all my time on? The one thing I need to be spending all my time on is making my products more valuable so I can sell them. And then I need to just find out, like, accounting, I suck at. Boom. Go get a bookkeeper and an accountant, CPA, and y'all handle it.
Yeah, salespeople make the money. We don't count it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, dude, I don't want to be involved in spreadsheets, taxes, QuickBooks, and nothing. And so delegation for me has been that's probably, I can't imagine anybody really suffering with delegation. Like, who do I hire next? Like, it should be probably the easiest question based on what frustrates you, I think. When I get frustrated, I'm like, fuck, I ain't doing that again. I'm hiring somebody.
Yeah. It's interesting because, our the Move 30 is, which we do for entrepreneurs, and really is about trying to stack these repeatable processes. And I always like to hear these stories because the reality is you did it yourself. This is what I think the story that you're telling, that the underlying story that maybe I caught, it's on the angle of that, is that you grinded the front end. Like, you didn't go out there and say, okay, I need a salesperson. No, you went and grinded it so that you kind of like cleaned it out. And then you went, okay, now I have a process. I'm now going to go hire someone. One of the things that's probably an interesting question for you would be like, so you're teaching people to do sales, and then they're hiring salespeople. When you decided to do your own, what was that like pressure? Like, you're like, oh man, now I gotta be able to, my guys got to crush it, right? Because that's your product. Now it's like really in your hands. What was that feeling like?
Well, I mean, like, I don't think that I get enough pats on the back for this, and I don't think enough people really see it. But like, my very first hire was my guy Dale, and when he came and started working for me, he legit, we went through all the normal sales vocab, like cold call. He's like, what's a cold call? I was like, coffee for closers. He's like, what does that even mean? Like, he was from the medical field, had no idea about a sale. He didn't even know what a sales process was. And dude, Dale made over $100,000, without even knowing what he was doing, because he was being trained and being groomed for all of that. And he's on track probably to make 3, 4, 500 grand this year in his second year. And that's one thing that never even fazed me. It's like, dude, I will take anybody, anyone. And if you have work ethic, that's the only thing I can't teach you to do. I can't teach you to show up to work and make a call. If you have work ethic, I don't care who you are, I'll make you successful in sales, period. And so for me, that's the thing. Like, I pick up the phone and people, I don't know if I should do this. Or it's like, really? You don't think that you can get a little bit better? Like, shut up and give me your credit card number. It just gets to that point where at the end of the day, the only reason people don't work with me is they're not confident in themselves. That's about it.
And at this point, you've put yourself in a position in your company to make that statement, because that kind of statement is like, hey, if you're not buying it, then you're the one that's missing out, because I know that I can transform you.
Yeah. And they also have to know for themselves that they're part of they're responsible for their own transformation. The only thing that I can do is give you, I can give you body armor, night vision, grenades, automatic weapons, ammo, the whole thing. But dude, you got to go to war.
Yeah. What is it?
What do you want me to do?
One of the ones that holds people, like, I mean, there's so many barriers in sales, and people do sales, and owners have to do sales. I mean, this isn't just like salespeople. This is like, if you own your business, you're about to go grow, you're going to have that front end, at least to get it off the ground, unless you're going to fund it and find salespeople, everything like that. What is it you find that the one thing that people are not doing? Like, what is the one, like the front end? If they just started doing this thing, the rest of them will fall. What do you think? What do you think that is?
If they just started actually working, that's about it. I mean, look, I can sell you on the idea of training or using a certain approach or improving your product or whatever. It doesn't matter. The 98% of salespeople out there, and the reason why I'm not a trillionaire is because 98% of people out there are just too lazy to do the work and too arrogant to want to change and improve. They're like, I'm good. That's the one thing that if you want to make a significant impact on your income, your lifestyle, everything, just work. Like, don't sign up for Stupar Sales Academy and force yourself to become a lifetime student if you're not going to apply and do the work. I work best with people that are already making the calls, that are already showing up consistently. And they're the Kobe Bryants out there looking for a dude. If I could just take a razor and shave off 1/16 of an inch off my shoe, I could accelerate off the jump 18%. A little bit quicker, And yeah, that would be my one suggestion for the front end of anything is, dude, I've been working 18 hours a day, pretty much 7 days a week for the last 2 years. And I've been able to scale a business from literally zero to well over $1 million, less than 12 months, because I was willing to put in the work, period.
Yeah. I think that it's, do you think that we have lost work ethic, or do you think that we've just got so much information that we just get all over the place?
Man, I just think that people are they're just not in alignment with where they want to go. Like, don't take a sales job, but wish that you were a YouTube star. Like, there's so many people that show up to a sales job just so that they can make their, $2-3 grand a month to pay their bills, but they sit around wasting their time at that sales job and wasting opportunity that they could be using to make loads of money because they wish that they were a YouTube star. If you want to be a YouTube star, go be a YouTube star. Like, anybody can do that. You just make good content and post every single day. That's about it. And sooner or later, you'll make something happen. So I think that's one of the main reasons why people are kind of like lazy or whatever. It's like, stop wishing for something else and just go do it then, and put 18 hours a day into it until your YouTube channel is crushing, and Gary Vee talks about that shit all the time. It's like, well, dude, I have a sales job, but I just really love Pokemon. It's like, okay, then go literally slay Pokemon universe with your knowledge, your creative talents. And sure, it's going to take you probably 2-3 years to really build that thing up and monetize, but like, go and do it. It's better than working at a sales job that you can't stand. But, if you're like, well, I kind of like this sales job and there's lots of opportunity. It's like, well, then work on yourself and become the most valuable salesperson that you possibly can, or else don't do it. It's just not worth it.
So on an individual side, that conversation is absolutely real. When you have more than 8 salespeople, do you look at the organization sales differently than you look at the individual? You see where I'm getting at? Because you can't run an organization. Not everybody's going to be a player. You need the guy who's not people don't realize you need the number 7 guy because he just clocked 6 sales. But the number 1 guy, he's might sold 42. But a business, you still need those guys.
Yeah.
How do you say that? How do you give peace to entrepreneurs that aren't just trying to kill the number 6 guy? Because he's probably not. I've been in these scenarios before. He's not an A guy.
I look for maintenance versus yield. So I want low maintenance, high yield. I want somebody that's virtually autonomous. If you're not the best performer and you're in the bottom 30% of the business or whatever, but you're autonomous and you're profitable and you contribute with a good attitude and you're not shitting on everybody and dragging everybody down because your sales figures aren't that good, you just don't care about upward mobility, dude, you're on the team for forever. Now, if you're the top sales guy, but you're shitting on everybody else, you're toxic, you're negative, done. Easiest fire I'll ever make. Because you're high maintenance, high yield. So I want my sales staff to be as low maintenance as possible, high yield as possible, with a good attitude that's willing to contribute to the growth of other people on the team. And if you can accomplish that, you can scale it and you can monitor it because you know how much work you're having to put in and how much management is going to have to put in to provide maintenance to a either high or low yield team. So, I just want low maintenance, high yield, baby.
It's a great way to look at it. And, because every organization, there's the guy and it's like, he's number 5 every single month. Like, how can you be number 5 every single month? Like your consistency is to hit number 5 every month. Isn't that wild how their brain says 5 is the number? And you've probably seen this, right? It's like consistent over years.
Oh, it is incredibly consistent and predictable. And, again, as long as that person is contributing positively to the morale of the group all day.
Yeah.
If my bottom guy who is not even profitable, if I can find out some type of evidence that that person is contributing to 20 other sales because he's the funny guy, or, he just gets everybody in a good mood and is highly energetic, dude, you're on the team forever. I don't care if you're literally burning my money, because ultimately you're more profitable for the whole team. And that's another way to look at things.
That's kind of, that was exactly what my thought pattern of what you were saying is like, there's a sales person that's managed and there's a sales team that's managed. And those are 2 different situations.
100%.
You got to have that lower guy. So what's exciting you right now? What's exciting you? What's on the horizon? What's the thing that's gripping you right now?
One is from a professional standpoint, just the momentum I have in my business. It's I've never ever experienced financial success like I'm having right now. And the most exciting part about that is 1, it's happened so quickly. 2, it's growing so quickly. And 3, I'm 18 months into my business and it's a multi-million-dollar business at this point with 5 people in Wisconsin. Like the amount of potential here is just unbelievable. So that gets me fired up. On the other side, personal side, got a baby on the way in July. I'm buying $1 million house, should be done next month. Getting a new Porsche very, very soon. And I'm just excited about all the stuff that's just going on. It's all positive. It's all bright. And, nobody on this planet's more grateful for whether you're listening, you're like, oh, whatever, dude. Or you're like, damn, dude.
I like how you did that. It's like, I like
there's people above me.
You mimic the other guy.
Yeah,
I do too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, I know there's people above me and I know there's people below me. But for me, out of all of them, there's nobody more grateful to be in my shoes than me.
That's amazing, man. That's a closing statement. Where do they find you, Jordan? I've loved having you on the podcast. I'm probably going to double down on you in the next 8 months and we'll do it again because it's just a blast to do this with you. But where do they find you, man? How do I help you get these people that are not being salespeople to rock and roll? How can I send it away?
You can easily find me pretty much anywhere at Jordan Stupar, Stupar. And jordanstupar.com, baby.
And on Instagram, right? Jordan Stupar on Instagram.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks a lot, brother. I appreciate you being a guest on the Entrepreneur Evolved podcast. Jordan Stupar, you're a stud and a legend, brother.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on.
If you like this episode, make sure you smash the like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just like Nike is to athletes, Moved is to entrepreneurs.